for us from last month's edition, where we discussed a lot about building value, growing our capacity, the area of reinvention, reinventing ourselves. I'm happy to see everyone. Please use the comment to tell us your name and where you are joining us from. Your name and where you are joining us from. Let's have that ongoing while we proceed to uh, the beautiful subject we have today. If you can hear me clearly, can you fly an emoji? Let me be sure. Indicate with an emoji if you can hear me. I want to welcome everyone to the room. Amos, you are welcome. Yes, Mr. Wilson, you are highly welcome. You can, Leonard from Lagos, you're welcome. Happy to see you, Leonard. Your name and where you're joining us from, please. I'm excited to see everyone, the energy in the room. Welcome to our Giltop Global African Youth Mentorship webinar for the month of July. It's been a journey of transformation for us, 2 years plus now. Thank you, Obina from Worry. I can see you. The joy of the feedback from the last session was massive reinvention, moving from one lane to another lane and leveraging opportunities. I'm really, really grateful for all that is happening. Today is so special. We have our first international guest in the history of this monthly series we've been having, and I would love you to meet him. And before we do that, please share the link on your status. We are live, we are live, we are live, we are live. Everyone needs to join the room. I don't want anyone to miss out. My heart is so full of joy. I don't want anyone to miss out. I'm highly expectant myself, and we are at a very critical junction for transformation, for light, for insight. And the key is not to be selfish, to share the joy. The joy that is shared is multiplied. So please share your status. We are live. 1 minute to bring everyone into the room that needs to be here. And without much ado, let me see your emojis celebrating as I introduce the person, special person, the facilitator for today, the guest that has been prepared for this. I'm so delighted that he made it to join us. Thank you for your celebrations. I can see your emojis. Really, someone I've known for some years now, and someone I respect a lot. And Dr. Blessed Ipia is a mentor, a healthcare technology professional, and a pharmacist, doctor of pharmacy from the University of Benin. He is an international professional by every standard, and is someone that is not too far from where we are. So there's a lot of inspiration where you can see the journey of a person, and you will not become hopeless about your case to say, this one, he has already gone so far, I can't catch up, you can't see it as that state of awe or wonder that makes you see some people as being special or different in a way that makes you feel you are not like them. Please don't forget to share the link again so that everyone can join. But this is someone that is a brother and a friend, someone you can relate with, someone whose story you can relate with. And he's not too far from where we are, as I said. Dr. Blessed is a phenomenal pharmacist, a healthcare technology professional, over a decade of experience helping organizations use technology to improve healthcare delivery. And that's another thing you will get to find out better. His career spans pharmacy practice, humanitarian service with Doctors Without Borders, healthcare consulting, large-scale electronic health record implementation, giving him a unique perspective on leading change across diverse healthcare environments. Can I see our celebrations? this array of experience he has across sectors. It's really a big asset we are going to be benefiting from today. He's passionate about developing people. He mentors young professionals and advocates for skills that remain relevant. Thank you for your celebrations, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That remains relevant across industries, countries, and cultures. He believes lasting success is built on character, competence, curiosity, and a commitment to lifelong learning. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in the room, join me to welcome Dr. Blessed Ipia, all the way from Ontario, Canada. Thank you, Dr. Blessed. The floor is yours. You are
All
highly,
right.
highly.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. Just give me a second. I think let me just be too clear. Just give me 1 second. Let me adjust this. Okay.
Thank you for the celebrations. Keep it coming, keep it coming, keep it coming. Global community from Sierra Leone, from South Sudan, from Nigeria. You are highly,
Okay.
highly welcome, sir.
All right. Okay. Good. All right. Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. Nice to meet you all. Here, you guys have been on this for 2 years. That's really great. More power to your elbow. Um, Maybe if you could hear me clearly, just give me like a thumbs up or just to make sure that you can all get me clearly. Okay, good. All right, so let me share my screen 1 second. Okay. Okay, okay, so once you see my screen, also give me another thumbs up. Can see my screen good? Okay. All right. So yeah, thank you once again. Thank you, Moses, as well, for also having me. It's a pleasure to connect and meet with great minds. So before we talk about global opportunities or international organizations or Canada or anything like that, I want us to start with a very, very, very simple question. Okay. And what I would like to ask you all is, what does success mean to you? Maybe we could use the chat. If you could put it in the chat, just tell me something about what success means to you. I would like to just get an idea of how we feel about the word success. If you can put it in the chat, just tell me one word. Just one word will do, 1 or 2 words. Okay. Actualizing purpose from Christopher. That's Rema. I like that. Okay. Any more? Okay. Peace and fulfillment. Oh, thank you, Moses. That's great. Okay. All right. Yeah, I would go on, but I mean, Joy says success means getting what you want and dream of. Okay, good. I like your perspective, Joy. So basically, what I'm asking is not necessarily what maybe your parents may think about what success should look like, or what your friends may think about or define what success is, or what the social media would define, or Instagram would define what success is, or what the society not what the society defines it as. I see Obina says a reward to your positive input. Wow, I see you guys have been on fire since these 2 years. You guys are giving your answers are trillion. Okay. All right. I mean your answers are all beautiful. I was thinking I'm gonna be seeing stuff like, money. I'm not seeing anybody talking about money, about wealth. Um, okay, but then, right? Fulfillment can also be peace and fulfillment. Moses, that maybe money is involved in peace and fulfillment. I don't know. Well, it's okay. A good career, right? Career, maybe. Okay. Actualizing purpose could be maybe, could be seen from the career lens as well. Right? You could also get fulfillment from taking care of your family, being a provider, right? But yes, the big truth. The truth is that all of your answers are correct. Like all of you have said the right stuff. Success could be a lot of things, right? But the most important thing is to be able to define success on your own scoreboard, right? Because you don't want to spend years trying to win a game that you never chose. So what I'm going to be doing today's session is that I'm going to try to share a bit of my story, but this is not really a presentation about my career, right? As I go through our conversation today, remember that this conversation is basically about you. And basically, how do you prepare yourself today for opportunities that you may not even know exist yet? Right? That's kind of the central idea I want you to keep in mind throughout our conversation. You don't want to become globally ready when the opportunity arrives. You become globally ready by what you are doing today. Okay. So one of the biggest challenges we have in our society is that success is often visible. People want to be able to feel success. They want to be able to palpate success. Sometimes it's may see that maybe the car you drive. I mean, we see all these things, right? The house you live in, maybe, right? Or maybe what you're wearing. Maybe your job title could be part of success when you become a prof. I can remember in school days when you're a prof, that's like a special status. You dare not call a prof a doctor. I remember we had a lecturer then that he was initially a doctor and he became a prof, and somehow, persons forgot because he had spent years being a doctor before he became a prof. So people are used to calling him a doctor, and then someone accidentally called him a doctor when he had become a prof. I was not taken lightly, right? So sometimes it can also be where you travel, right? So I've been here, I've been to China, I've been here, sometimes even the way people treat you changes based on what they think you have. I remember sometime during the military era, one of my uncles was telling me then that he had an invitation then to see the governor, and then he showed up at the government house. You know how it used to be, they have like 2 or 3 gates manned by military officers. And he showed up and he was driving, then I think he was driving a Beetle, the Volkswagen Beetle. His regular, day-to-day car. And they didn't even listen to him. They immediately turned him back. They didn't even listen to him. So he went back home, changed his car, and drove a Mercedes and came back to the same gate. This time, they didn't even ask him where he's going. They opened the gate, right? So sometimes the way people treat you changes, right? Because of how or when they're able to visualize success, they're able to see you as being successful. And to be honest, there's nothing wrong with wanting a nice car, a good house, financial security, a comfortable life. But the problem starts when the pressure to look successful becomes stronger than the discipline required to build success. And to our own detriment in this our current age, social media has amplified this, because every day when you go online, we are looking at somebody else's harvest. Okay. Facebook, turn on Facebook, you see it all around you. You see the new car, you see the house they go to buy. So Dubai now has banned a lot of Nigerians from visiting, so maybe that will help a bit to ease off the pressure. But yeah, we see people announcing that they have relocated. Oh, I've moved, I'm now here. They can update that feature on Facebook, say, So this is kind of like our everyday experience, right? But what we actually see, I know in a Nigerian context, sometimes people, there's also the thing of fake life, right? People also try to look rich or look successful, right? Even when probably it's just a made up story, just because of same societal pressure, and we'll get to that. But that does not mean there are also people that have genuinely worked for money and they have attained that status in life. They have, say, for example, maybe some lecturers in university, they have paid the price, they have burnt the candles, they have earned that title through hard work, right? And then we just see these persons and say, wow, this guy is a prof, how did he become, especially when you have a young prof, like, wow, he's so young and he's already a prof. And you hear his biography and you're like amazed. But when we see such persons, what we usually don't see is the planting. We don't see the years of preparation. We don't see rejection, the sacrifices. Sometimes we don't even know how what we're admiring was acquired. Sometimes we see stuff and we don't really care. Nobody really asks, how did this person acquire it? Especially sometimes in our society, we tend to celebrate certain things without asking questions. Maybe some of the questions we ask could actually help us to evaluate better what we are seeing, right? But there's an idea, I don't know if anyone have heard of the book, The Millionaire Next Door. That's one book that I read. I think I was in school or in the university when I read The Millionaire Next Door. It's a book about how to it kind of guides your mind, can try to like build your perspective on how you see wealth and how you approach success, right? I don't know, has anyone heard of that book, or has anyone read the book? Maybe you can give me a thumbs up. Oh, we have legends. Okay, right. So one of the central theme in that book is that looking wealthy and actually building wealth are two different things. And I think the same principles actually apply professionally as well. And one thing that have helped me personally, which also helped me quite early, was understanding that sometimes what I had in my hand at that particular time was seed to be planted, not to be harvested, or not a harvest to eat up. Right? Sometimes we get some kind of resource in our hands. It could be cash, it could be time, and then we take it as, a harvest, and then of course it's a form of harvest, right? But I'm not just talking about money this time. Your time could also be seed. Your education can be a seed. Your relationships can be a seed. Your NYC year can be a seed. Even the internet access on your phone can be a seed, and I'll tell you why shortly. The danger of societal pressure is that it can make you eat your seed because everybody expects to see a harvest. So now I want you to think about that for a minute, because I think this is one major issue that kind of affects especially our generation. So sometimes the question isn't simply, can I afford this item? Can I afford this phone? Or can I afford to buy this car? Sometimes maybe the bigger questions we should be asking ourselves is, what season am I in? Is this my season to consume, or is it my season to plant? Right? So I'm going to tell you my little story and how this played out in my own life. And I'll just give you a quick run through on what life was like for me. So when I graduated from pharmacy school, I actually wasn't sure which direction I wanted to take. Pharmacy is basically broad. Was a pharmacist. I don't know if you have any other pharmacists in the house this evening, but pharmacy is broad. That you can be an industrial pharmacist, do medication compounding, which I'm sure you know a lot of pharmaceutical companies. Emzor is one popular Nigerian pharmaceutical company, and the rest. So you could work in the hospital, be a hospital pharmacist, or you could also be in retail. So retail is the most popular. I'm sure you find that everywhere. But personally, for me, I liked clinical pharmacy and I was good at it. And I like the fact that in retail pharmacy, for example, you could interact directly with people and solve their problems on the spot. Like you could really feel that impact. But I had this question at the back of my mind, which I kept asking myself, despite how good I was in retail space and clinical pharmacy. I kept reflecting on this. And it was, if I keep doing this for the next 5 or 10 years, how do I scale the impact? How do I become useful at a bigger level? And to be honest, I didn't have the answer. So during my internship at Central Hospital, it's a government hospital in Benin, I started doing some research and going online I was basically trying to understand what does pharmacy mean to the rest of the world. Yeah, lecturers in school have told us a lot about the profession. They have trained us, but then we have basically seen the profession through their lens. But I wanted to know or understand what pharmacy really meant to the rest of the world. What are pharmacists actually doing elsewhere? And in process of that, one day I came across a website, and that website was msf.fr. But there was just one problem. Problem was that everything on that website was in French. And I don't speak French. But you know what? There was a translate button. So I clicked it. And while going through the site, I saw the urgently needed pharmacist. I was like, and you urgently need pharmacists. I mean, pharmacists are everywhere. Like, why do you need pharmacists so urgently? Are you lacking pharmacists? So now at this time, I wasn't even done with internship. And I mentioned I was in Central Hospital at that time. I didn't know anybody in MSF. That was the first time I heard the word. I didn't know whether somebody somewhere in France would even look at the application if I were to apply. But I thought, well, what's the harm? So I applied. Then I realized I didn't even know what my resume should look like for something like this, because it's an international application and it's a French-speaking country. So what did I do? So I went back to the same internet. I researched how an European-style resume should look like, prepared mine accordingly, and I submitted it. Now, there's something very important here. When we tell these stories later, we tend to, compress time, because now it seems like everything happens, so fast. And it's going to sound like, if I were just to run through the story, I'll say, oh, you know what? I found MSF online, I applied, then I went to Paris, right? But no, that wasn't the case. See, this process, it took about a year. There were roughly about 4 stages. Remember I started during my internship, so kept meeting different persons reached out to me to have interviews at, different points. Some persons is just document gathering. So by the time I was done with all of the interviews and all of the 1 year had passed, that time I was already doing my NYC. And then during my NYC, while I was in camp or shortly, then I was serving I was posted to Kogi State. And then someone reached out to me from MSF and they said they wanted me to come to Paris for training. So I was like, Paris? I'm like, yeah, okay. So now this will be my first time ever traveling outside of Nigeria. And I think I had about 10K, like 10,000 naira in my account then. So I was like, how is this exactly supposed to work? Because normally, we hear Europe is a very popular destination. We hear, people say, oh, getting to Europe very difficult. People go through the sea and, they die. There's a lot of stuff going on. Then I have 10K in my account and let's go to Europe. So thinking about the visa, you need proof of funds, none of that. But then MSF said, you know what, apply for the visa. They gave me supporting documents. So I applied. And guess what? The visa was approved with my 10,000 naira. So they covered my flights, they covered my hotel, they covered my feeding, and they even gave me something that we call per diem. So I'm sure Moses is very familiar with per diem. So per diem is basically like your pocket money. So, of course, as an African guy going to Paris with per diem, per diem to cover you like your big daily logistics or any other thing you need on a daily basis. I was able to maintain myself that almost 70% of the per diem I brought it back home as my takeaway. Anyway, that's story for another day. But that became my first international trip. Now, what I find interesting looking back is that I couldn't control whether MSF would respond at the time I applied. I couldn't control whether they would select me. I couldn't control whether the visa would even be approved. But you know what I could control? I could control whether I clicked translate on msf.fr the first time I saw it. I could control whether I researched, whether I prepared, whether I just threw a shabby resume that I found, how we do those days. Persons who go to a business center and tell one guy that has maybe just done secondary school only, or maybe did not even complete secondary school, and the graduate is going to meet this guy to prepare his resume. So I could have just gone to one of those guys and say, you know what, prepare my resume for me, right? So all of that was within my control. I think that's an important lesson, especially when you are young. You don't need to see the whole road before taking the next intelligent step. So that experience also changed how I think about education. Sometimes I hear people say like everything they taught us in Nigerian universities or in school is outdated, or it's our archaic 1960s curriculum, stuff. But to be honest, I don't completely agree with that. Because there are parts of the curriculum that needed updating. Yeah, I totally agree. Like there are some part of it that will need to be updated. Yeah. But think about it. Like you should assess all year. Thought that maybe I should have asked how many people have graduated or are still in school. Maybe that's a question I should have asked. But I want you to assume that like most of the persons on the call are somewhere around that they are just recent graduates, or around that phase, or about to graduate, or somewhere around that phase. So I'm sure we still have like full memories of what school was like. So looking back, mathematics was a common course, at least if you did a science-based course program in school. But the mathematics we did was not Nigeria. It's not Yoruba, it's not Hausa. It did not originate from Nigeria. For pharmacists and medical professionals, we did pharmacology. It's not Nigerian. The concept is not Nigerian. Engineering isn't Nigerian. Accounting is not Nigerian. Computer science is not Nigerian. All of these are basically global bodies of knowledge. So what does that mean? Your university basically gave you a foundation. But what it cannot do is keep you current for the next 30 years. That responsibility increasingly belongs to you, especially even if you went to the university that had the most up-to-date curriculum at the time you studied, 10 years after. What you knew in university is basically getting outdated, right? So, and our generation basically has an advantage that previous generations didn't have at this scale, right? And what's that advantage? We have the internet, we have online courses, we could research better, we have professional communities, and now, of course, the most trendy of them all now is we have AI, right? So what that means for us is that the distance between I don't know this and I can start learning this has become crazily short. And I'll tell you this, like, there's a course I was doing recently. In fact, I'm preparing to take that exam anyway. It's a specialized area of an application. And so you know what I did? So I've done the course, I've taken all the classes. We have a whole lot of materials to go through. It's still pharmacy related. I don't know everything related to pharmacy. Most times it's complicated, but anyways. So they gave us all of this stuff to read. And we have to, understand all of this, how to, build a medication digitally, how to compose it, the dosage, the calculations, and all of that to automate that process. So, of course, you have to deal with database, the back ends, a lot of components to it that you need to understand. So what I did was that I don't know how many of you are very familiar with AIs. There's ChatGPT and there's Claude, there's all of that. But for this particular one, I used ChatGPT, and what I did was to create a project in ChatGPT, and then I put all of the course materials on that project. And then I go into ChatGPT, and then I go into the interactive mode, right? And then I speak to it and I tell ChatGPT, you know what, look at the entire course curriculum end to end. I'm preparing for my exams in this course. I need to run me through the entire curriculum as though in a way that a 10-year-old will understand. And then, but start with running through the structure on how you are going to run through this course end to end. And then it gives me everything, every single topic, and start giving me topic by topic, concept by concept, and checking with me and creating questions and asking me, do I understand, before it goes to the next concept? And we keep running through. And when I don't understand, I can talk, I can say anything I want to say to it. It's totally okay. It understands where I'm at, follows me through, and I gradually get complete understanding of that course content. That's an advantage in our generation that didn't exist before. So going back to the point of, I don't know this and I can start learning this, the distance between not knowing and knowing is now becoming very short. But the sad reality is that having access to information doesn't automatically make you knowledgeable. You still have to think, just like the example I gave. I have to think, okay, I have this course content, I have all of these materials. How do I absorb? How do I understand this? So you have to think, you have to practice, you have to verify, you have to apply it. You could use AI to accelerate your learning. But where I would draw caution to you in terms of AI is, don't use it to outsource your thinking. Okay? Don't abdicate your brain to AI. You should be able to think through it. Instead, you should use it to augment your understanding and your thought process. So going back to the foundation, your degree should not be the end of your education. It should give you enough foundation to continue educating yourself. That's just it. It's just to teach you how to research, how to find information, and how to thrive. The rest is basically up to you. So going back to my MSF story, MSF reinforced this concept for me in a very practical way. MSF was a highly accountable organization. Standards mattered a lot. A lot of the work was digital, and Excel was everywhere, as Moses would testify. When I started, I wasn't particularly advanced in Excel. I had only seen Excel, like, if you ask me what's Excel, I just say, oh, Excel is just like an application that you just see boxes with, cells. Did I even know that those boxes were called cells? I don't know. But anyway, that's all I knew. But one interesting thing about MSF was that managers rotated very frequently. So what did I do? I developed a habit of trying to pick one useful thing from everybody I worked with. And then as time went by, managers to managers, I had the opportunity. At some point, I worked on a project in Cross River and some other rural communities. And then I had at the point I came to Abuja. I worked in coordination where I was working more in the we had like a national distribution warehouse. Almost like it's from this point where we send most of medical supplies to all the projects across the country. So that's the image you're seeing, like with the high shelves with pallets on it, right? And yeah, so while I was and this was in Abuja. So while I was in Abuja, I had the chance of working with this guy. This guy you see called Gassan, right? So Gassan was, we call him pharmacy coordinator, but technically in the public sector, he would be called the pharmacy director. Like he was like the number one man in pharmacy. So a lot of people didn't like, Gassan was difficult to get along with, but you know what? Gassan was exceptionally good in Excel. And he would send me this spreadsheet with all of these formulas and calculations and analysis. He would flip everything upside down and break down the whole consumption patterns in pharmacy in terms of trying to forecast medication use and all of that. And something changed in the way I looked at them whenever he sends his documents to me. Instead of looking at the results of his analysis, because that will make life easy. He's done all the analysis. You just look at the answers and walk away. I was more interested in how did this guy get all of these answers? How did he even think about this? What's in his head? So I get back to myself, trying to understand how it works. And these formulas I'm seeing him use, where else can I apply it? So I approached him some of these questions. And then, of course, he was kind of open. And then whenever he teaches me something, one formula, I would literally apply it to almost everything. Like he would teach me one formula and I would stretch the formula until the formula was begging for mercy. Like I would apply it in every possible way that it could be used. So, and he noticed it. So he started exposing me to more and more and more. And that's and looking at that, there's a lesson there also about mentorship too. Sometimes, mentorship doesn't begin when you go to somebody and say, please be my mentor, and like this official process. Sometimes people begin investing in you because they see what they teach you is being used. So don't just, learn what excellent people do. The big takeaway here is kind of study how excellent people think, you know. So eventually, after all those learning and grooming and interactions I had with Gassan, that learning created something much more valuable than Excel skills. As I kept working with him and he saw those strive and the way I was, getting the way he thinks and catching up with all of those advanced Excel concepts, you know what it did? It built trust. And after a long time, I think it was almost time for him to come to the end of his mission in Nigeria. Then there was an urgent need in Castina. MSF was setting up a malnutrition project in Castina, and it's still standing today. And MSF needed someone to establish pharmacy operations there. And usually, this is really strictly based on hierarchy. Like I was not the most senior, pharmacist at the time in MSF France operations in Nigeria. And, I wasn't necessarily the most obvious person, of course. I was mostly we had like the distribution center, I was in the warehouse. Okay, I don't have a picture of the warehouse. Okay. I would have shown you my office. I was just like somewhere there. But you know what Gassan did? The team that was planning casting operations in Nigeria, they were operating from Brussels? We call it the cell, somewhere in Europe. So Gassan told them that he has 100% confidence in me that I can go in there and get that place running. Now, that task is usually done by a senior international pharmacist, not even a national pharmacist. So I just want you to think about that for a moment. Somebody was willing to put his credibility behind my name. So I went to Castina. We identified and established a pharmacy warehouse from scratch, structured it in accordance with international pharmaceutical standards. We set up the pharmacy. We recruited the first pharmacy local team. So normally we have international staff that manage local, like the managers, but this time I was recruiting the team. So, and I led the team. We placed the first international pharmaceutical orders. Moses will understand what I'm saying, but we have this process where we manage. And within weeks, the core operations was functioning. We had a running pharmacy. And mind you, before I came on board to this project, there was an international pharmacist on that project for almost 2 to 3 months trying to figure out what to do, how to do it. And then unfortunately, somehow, I think he lost his dad and he had to quickly travel back and he could not continue his mission in Nigeria. So they needed somebody out of the blues to quickly go in there and get things running. So now, what they have been struggling to establish in the last 3 months, I was able to go in there and get it done. I think in roughly like 3 weeks, we had a fully functional pharmacy running. Now, you see, after we placed the first international orders and got everything running, the most important part isn't that we were able to, get all of this going and all of that. The most important lesson here is my Castina opportunity didn't start in Castina. It started much earlier. It started when I was looking at somebody's spreadsheet and asking, why did you use that formula? It started when I applied what I learned. And he told me, okay, this is VLOOKUPs. Okay, it's some ifs. This is count ifs. So competence technically creates trust, and trust creates responsibilities. And responsibilities give you more experience. So one thing I will encourage you to build early in your career is this: become someone worth recommending. Someone should be able to put their own credibility on the line and say, give this person the responsibility. I trust them. So years later, after all of that in Castina, I returned back to Abuja, and then years later, I decided to move to Canada. And sometimes we imagine, that once, your career starts moving upward, you should just keep going like that, just keep moving, just keep flying, right? That's usually a sweet story. But life doesn't always work that way. So before leaving Nigeria, I knew I couldn't just arrive in Canada and immediately start practicing pharmacy. The licensing, like I've done my research, the licensing process is going to take years and all of that. And you have to be licensed before you can practice pharmacy. But MSF had given me something else. Had significant experience in logistics and distribution. At one point, like I mentioned, I was responsible for the country's pharmaceutical warehouse operations. Like anything you need in any project in Nigeria and it's associated with MSF France, it must have come down. And while working in that distribution center, we had gone from taking roughly 2 to 3 weeks to prepare major shipments within Nigeria. Often, usually then with a lot of issues, discrepancies and all of that. And by working in that distribution center, in that warehouse, I had optimized the process that our turnaround time was now significantly lesser. Within 24 hours, we can get a truckload out. So, and at one point, we were actually able to support several projects simultaneously. So we had a project, we had Castina, we had Maiduguri, we had Jahun, Jigawa State, right? So at some point, we could actually not just ship one before. It took one shipment, took 3 weeks to prepare and ship out. At the time, we could now ship within 24 hours, and not just within 24 hours, we could actually, I knew several times where we shipped to 3 locations, full truckloads to 3 different projects within a short turnaround time. So with all of the experience, I said to myself, you know what? If I can manage medicines, I can manage other supply chains, because medicines and medications are one of the most sensitive. So decided to start applying for logistics jobs in Canada before I traveled. So yeah, I got interviews, but fortunately, I didn't get a job. It's not before I left. So I eventually traveled and I arrived Canada with about 200 USD then. That time was kind of, Forex was very difficult to get. So, and if I won't tell you the story about this 200 USD, remember my per diem that was given to me in France, which I told you that I kept like almost like 70%, right? It's contributed because I had CBN then were holding Forex, right? But I had some of those euros that I got from France. I had it in my domiciliary account. I still had some of it left. So that's what I told the bank, you know what, give me. At least I have Forex with you directly. That is my own. Give me that one. Let me hold. So that was my $200. So, but I was fortunate enough to have a friend that could accommodate me initially for a couple of weeks. And within a few weeks of arriving, I started a job, and guess what I was doing? I was delivering parcels with UPS, right? So go house to house, jumping in and jumping out. Sometimes in the cold, gets as low as 10 degrees, sometimes lesser, but you know, that was kind of, just imagine that from doing all of those work in MSF, and then I arrived Canada. Anyway, so after I did the UPS job, within a few weeks of doing that, I got another job with Amazon this time. And in Amazon, I got a job as an Amazon warehouse associate. So that's kind of like the basic entry level in Amazon. So we call those jobs then survival jobs. That we call the jobs. So, and that's exactly what it was, right? I mean, they could pay the bills. There's nothing wrong with the work actually, but I knew for me, this wasn't really the destination, right? So I knew that at that time, this is where I am. It doesn't have to be where I am going. The Amazon job was very physical. It had long shifts, sometimes 10 hours, 11-hour shifts, and you get what? 2 30 minutes breaks. And guess what? It's only those 2 30 minutes breaks that you get to sit down. So that's kind of also, we call it cultural shock. Like Nigeria, like, oh, you're working, you're sitting down. No, there, you stand throughout the shift. So long hours on my shifts, your muscles will definitely let you know that, man, you have worked hard. you know. So while I was there, guess what? I became curious again. Amazon had a lot of stuff. So I started studying Amazon. The robotics they had, they had advanced tech in there. So say trying to understand their processes, how the warehouse worked, the management structure. I was asking questions, I became like a little bit of a spy, you know. I worked through the night, and because I was mostly on night shift, and then during the day, of course, get tired, and then when I rest a bit and I wake up, and then I start applying for jobs and doing interviews. And at that time, to be honest, I didn't know how long that process was going to take. Maybe 2 months, maybe keep applying, 6 months, maybe 2 years. To be honest, I didn't know. And that's where discipline actually comes in. And maybe we could say discipline is, I don't know when the result is coming, but I'm going to keep going and keep doing what needs to be done. You know, eventually after 2 months, I got a mid-level inventory management role. It's for like a managerial role, and it was within like a healthcare mobility company. So that was now very close. In fact, that was now the first job that was way more comfortable than even what I was doing in MSF. So I'd say the key takeaway here would be work the opportunity you have while preparing for the opportunity you want. Right. So now I don't want to stand here and tell you that, everybody has the same opportunity. To be honest, we don't. Life contains unfair advantages, unfair disadvantages as well. Somebody has wealthy parents, somebody has connections, somebody has passports of other countries, like some of our politicians do, right? Somebody attended a better school, maybe. Somebody has access to capital. Somebody just simply had a better timing, and that, to be honest, that's reality. That's life, right? But one thing I learned was that spending all my energy staring at somebody else's advantage doesn't necessarily build mine. So I'll basically prefer kind of a different question. And that will be, what is in my hand right now? It could be, maybe you have a degree, maybe you can speak English, maybe it's internet access, and it's for you to be on this call, you have internet access. Maybe it could be NYC placement, maybe you're currently in a place where you have people you can connect with and learn from. Maybe there's just one brilliant person in your office, maybe like Gassan I met. Maybe it's time, maybe you have free time in your hand. Maybe it's curiosity, you're just naturally inquisitive. Whatever it is, use it. Opportunity can become experience, right? An experience, when you build experience, like in your resume, right? It translates to competence, and competence builds credibility. And once you're able to build credibility, it strengthens relationships, and those relationships can create better opportunities. And then you go back into that loop again and go keep evolving. And that's how advantages compound, because you keep running through that cycle. And because personally, I'm a person of faith, I also want to say something about that as well, because I know quite a number of us on the call have very strong conviction, and yeah, for every opportunity that comes to your way, pray about it, 100%, absolutely. But also, besides praying, you have to think, you have to prepare, you have to learn, you have to apply. Like I clicked, msf.fr. You have to show up, you have to persist. You know, God gave you brain too. God gave us brains for a purpose, right? Sometimes I feel like, you know, if God actually wanted us to pray about everything so that he can do it, then probably maybe he shouldn't have given us brains. I know God is very smart. For everything he gives you, he has a purpose, right? So God gave us brains for a purpose as well. And when you have brain, you use it, right? So prayer should not become a substitute for preparation. Faith and personal responsibility can and should always work together, right? So yes, recognize the advantages other people have, but you don't have to spend your life admiring them. You have to kind of reflect on yourself, use what's yours, and build new ones. So probably we should make it, a bit practical. Maybe you are there right now and you're thinking, okay, what should I be doing now? And I can just quickly give you like quick 5 things that you could do right now. First thing is to learn. Become genuinely good at something useful. And of course, we talked about unfair advantages. You could also reflect on that. Okay, maybe in this area I have an unfair advantage, or something that I know or I have, or there's a position I am that could make me, can help me to learn this stuff better. Build. That's the second thing you could do. Don't just collect certificates to decorate your CV. So, I've done this, I've done that. No. So yeah, of course, certificates can be useful, but certificate cannot substitute competence, right? Which is something that we also see. I remember I had this guy in school. In my final year, I had 3 computer science engineering students, no, computer engineering students, right? One was, it was a first class grade. It was already obvious he's graduating in first class. Second one was just an average guy, somewhere around, maybe second class lower, or between second class lower and anyway in the second class band range, right? And the last one was third class. Now, the guy with the first class, of course, is getting his certificate. He's sure he's graduating first class, top of the class. But guess what? At that time, he could barely control the mouse of the computer. You know what I mean? Like, when someone is holding the mouse and trying to control the cursor, he could barely control it. The second class guy could do basic Microsoft Word, not Excel, Excel maybe too. But Microsoft Word, typing a document or doing like basic stuff, he knows how to print and all of that. At least he could control the computer, right? He could operate the computer. But you see the third class guy, he could build, at that time, he could build programs and build softwares. He was advanced. So, yes, the first class guy has a certificate, but he didn't have the competence, right? So, it's good to get certification, but competence, this is very, very important. And of course, most of the projects that they did, the third class guy had a spill. Why did he have a spill? The students in his class, like all the final year grads, most of them, paid him to run their projects, for them, because most of their projects in computer engineering will be to build some kind of systems or, some kind of computerized systems, which they didn't have the knowledge to do. So they paid him. So he had multiple projects that he was working on the same time in the final year, including his own. And then, of course, he spilled because he didn't have time to read, even though he was already on third class, So anyway, So he spilled, but eventually graduated. And of course, by the time you graduate now, certifications, yes, but competence is what's going to keep you going. So the third action you could do is to do, just simple as that. Take responsibility. If you see that the work is real and something that can really impact you, you could volunteer, just gain the experience, build something, solve an actual problem, around you. Also, document is another thing. Then to explain your work, not just to do something and then you really don't know what's going on in there, especially now with AI. You should be able to ask yourself, what's the problem in here? What can I do? What changed? And that's very useful for interviews, performance reviews, even for your own understanding and growth. And finally, and connect. Build genuine relationships before you need favors. That's one thing. You see someone and then I haven't built that connection. I'm already asking, can you please help me? That kind of, just so you know, that destroys relationships. Learn from people, improve your communication, protect your reputation. Even if that reputation is not something that's too popular these days, but trust me, it still counts. Practice financial discipline. Remember we talked about the concept where you have a harvest in your hand. So you ask yourself, what season am I in? Am I in a planting season? Am I in a harvest season? Am I supposed to eat everything? I'm not saying it's not bad to enjoy the work and the fruit of your hands, but it's just a matter of understanding where you are in life, and knowing how much of your harvest should be replanted and how much to be consumed. And it changes depending on the season you are, right? So there's no one rule to that, but you just need to understand where you are in your own journey of life. So if you're doing NYC right now, don't just count down the months, just, what we will do, like, man, I cannot wait. But sometimes you may want to ask yourself, what can I learn from here? What can I build here? What problem can I solve? What can I leave knowing that I didn't know this concept when I arrived? Like, trying to understand the environment, trying to be inquisitive, trying to be curious. So, one of the key takeaways is that your reputations may actually enter rooms before you do. Make sure it says something you'll be proud to hear. Okay? Now, I cannot spend the last 20 or something minutes. I don't know how long I've spent now talking about different concepts and telling you, stories and how to look out for opportunity and leave you without giving you one. Some of you might have heard of McKinsey, and some of you may not have. So McKinsey and Co. and Company is one of the world's leading management consulting firms. The organization brings firms like a management consulting company. They help other organizations think through very difficult concepts. They help other firms, government agencies across the world to work around strategies, technology, operational change, try to optimize performance. They also work with public and private sectors. And I'm sure some persons here may have also heard of other organizations like Deloitte, PwC. So these are global international companies in the same category and sphere of McKinsey, which do very similar things. They are global consulting organizations. Just so you know, like I know Nigeria as a country has also consulted, was it PwC or Deloitte, one of them, to help structure their, was it the foreign policy economic outlook, one of those. So this organization right now, they are investing heavily in developing their own people, because their products, gladly knowledge, problem solving, and people, because that's what they do. They walk around these three things. So now imagine getting access to some of the thinking, the tools, and the professional skills associated with an organization like that. Because that's what companies pay billions of dollars for. And you can do that without having to work there. So that's what makes this opportunity kind of interesting. McKinsey, they have a social impact initiative called the McKinsey.org. And one of his programs is called The Forward. McKinsey basically describes like McKinsey.org as they're basically sharing their capabilities to help, nonprofit and individuals succeed. And actually, myself, like that was about 2018, no, like 2017 thereabout. I completed the Forward program myself, and it was free. So it's like it was a 10 weeks professional development program, about 2 hours a week, delivered digitally and virtually, almost like this, and it focused on things like structured problem solving, communication, adaptability, and relationship building, digital and AI skills. And, after completing the core program, you also join a network of other learners as well across the globe. All right. So, and remember, basically, if you reflect back, think back what's clear on what we've been talking about so far and throughout this conversation, you see that you don't necessarily need to travel somewhere before you start getting international exposure. And right here is an opportunity where you can be sitting in Nigeria, learning materials developed from the experience of a global organization and connecting into a learning community that extends well beyond the shores of Nigeria. And something like this would normally cost you time, money, access to acquire in other ways. But here, at least one problem has been removed, which is the financial barrier. But what this is going to require is your time. It's going to require your discipline, and it's going to require your willingness to learn and apply. And that's why I'm sharing it. And yeah, that's the information you're seeing on your screen right now. The application basically closes October 5th. And I've also put my referral code there to help you to get in, because as you can tell, such kind of programs and trainings is going to be in high demand. So, but with referrals, it kind of saves you a lot of stress and helps you to get in faster, because as you begin to expand and broaden your thinking and your horizon, you will see that out there in the world, what speaks the loudest is your reputation, and reputation travels through referrals, right? So, yeah. So hopefully, And I believe that you'll be able to get in and take advantage of the referral. So, you don't, you get prioritized. Okay. So, before I go, I want to leave us with one final thought. Now, at the beginning of this conversation, some of you didn't know about this opportunity, right? But now you do. Now that's an advantage. Now, what you do with it from here, it's up to you. Thank you.
This is so profound. Please, can we celebrate Dr. Blessed? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Wow, wow, wow. Keep the celebrations, please. Keep it ongoing. So loaded, so loaded. There's a lot to unpack, a lot of insights. Everybody, we have to go back and listen over and over and over again to everything that he has said. Hearing it once is not enough. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, doctor. It's such a pleasure hearing your journey, hearing your experience, hearing how you were able to. If you have a question, just to save the time, please drop it in the chat or raise your hand. We have introduced him and read his profile. We just go into the conversation. But before then, can you drop one thought, striking thought, one thing that stood out for you from all that he has said in the comment section? Let's have some fast fingers. One thing that resonated with you, one thought that struck a chord, one thought that was like a bulb was lit inside of you when you heard him say or mention one instance. Let's have a few thoughts on the comments. And as we do that to save our time, I just have take some few questions. We have the privilege of having him in the room with so much experience from all that he has shared. I'm looking at where to start from now. Maybe we should do front to back. All right. Somebody has said what your university can give you is to be current. That is true. Yeah, it is my responsibility to keep myself updated and current. That one university can give to us. Thank you so much, Christopher, for sharing that. All right. So anybody else, you can use the comment section to share outstanding thoughts. We would just take a few questions as time can accommodate, and go and sit with the insights we have gotten so far. Let me begin with the issue of defining success. And reputation travels through referrals. Certification does not substitute competence from wisdom. Two powerful quotes from wisdom. Thank you, wisdom. That was profound. That was profound. Yes, yes, yes. Reputation travels through referrals. People get to meet you before they meet you through what other people have said about. This is so powerful. Very, very powerful. Just like the story he gave of the country farmer manager that believed in him. The opportunity has been brought to you. What you do with it is up to you. God's will. That is profound. Thank you, God's will. Wow. Wow. Celebrate everyone. Celebrate everyone. For the comment, it showed we were really following, hungry for insight, ready to learn, and ready to make the shift we need to make. All right, let me take this question. For keep a curious mind always to understand the process more than the results. Emmanuel, this is very, very, very powerful. Thank you, Emmanuel. The process, not just the outcome, process-oriented mindset where you are able to see the behind the scenes, the back end. People just see the stories, the social media. I'm happy to announce LinkedIn messages. I'm happy to announce that. I'm happy to announce that. These are outcomes. like fruit. They don't see the root, the principles that sustain the outcome, the processes. This is powerful. Thank you so much for sharing all those thoughts. So, the question I want to begin with is maybe for an African professional. We have our friends from Sierra Leone, South Sudan, Nigeria, different parts of Nigeria and Africa joining this webinar now, growing by the day, and many more will listen to the recording when it's uploaded on YouTube. The issue of what can I do now if I am not able. Mentorship sometimes doesn't start formally. Thank you so much, Samuel. It stems from how we take responsibility, the little opportunities we are being given, the curiosity that you mentioned. Thank you for that powerful thought, Mr. Sam. Thank you. Thank you. Joy is saying start where you are, build with what you have. Start where you are. And that is what this question is all about for African professionals that can't fly to Canada tomorrow or next month or next week, who still don't have the resources, the wherewithal to travel to Europe or other places that they feel have more opportunities. What would your counsel be for them now? That's one question. The second one is in the issue of the area of self-esteem. I was really glad you began with definition of success. I think one of the areas we miss it is um, how people are deficient in their mindset, and they carry the liability of feeling insufficient. They want to prove a point. Even after they're wealthy, some Africans can be very extravagant. It's like there's a void. I don't know whether you get what I'm trying to say. The kind of houses our footballers are buying in Europe and cars and musicians. It's like people feel this have finally made it. We must loud it. We must pepper them. We must show. We must flaunt what we have, whether necessary or not. It's a very serious virus. The desperation, you talked about Dubai, you talked about the pressure. This is one big area. So maybe if you can share your thoughts on this too. One, people that can't travel, I don't have resources to travel to get a master's or fund a higher education or travel to greener pasture. What can I do now? Secondly, the issue of dealing with the void, because it can become a deterrent even after people become successful, they can fall into a big trap on account of this. Thank you. You can respond to this too.
Okay. All right. Thank you for those questions. So I would say there a, the way to go about it is to kind of think through it, right? Um, and I think our thought process and our thinking pattern is kind of like one of the biggest resource we can actually leverage, you know. Um, so if you want to travel abroad and you want to, go out of the shores of Nigeria, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a good thing. Explore the world, get exposed to more opportunities and all of that. But the actual truth is that process really within your control? Even if you have the funds and the wherewithal to travel right now, uh, is it really within your control? I heard recently there were some, I don't know the details, but there were some government officials that were recently trying to travel to Canada and they got rejected. Yeah, they have all the money. In the past, I know there was some army chiefs and stuff that were trying to travel to Canada and they also got rejected, right? So, um, yeah, it's not, there are some things that are not within our control and we shouldn't worry and stress about that, right? What you want to work on or what you want to think through is things that are within your control. So it's the right question should be, yeah, I would like to travel. I would like to explore the world, but What am I doing right now? What do I have within my control right now that can allow me to do that, right? Or that can better prepare me for that experience. So it's more or less coming back to the foundation and looking at what is in your hands. What can you leverage? What can you work on? What are you doing right now? How can you build from where you are? How can you develop better competencies from what you are doing right now? And also just the other part of it is also exposure. Um, am I thinking right? Sometimes the best way to calibrate yourself is to also, as we do in science, when you want to calibrate an item, you have to compare that item with against a standard or with other items to see how you measure up. So one easy way is to be able to, expose yourself to other professionals or other persons that are, have similar interests as you do across the world and see where you are. There are some things that the world have totally moved on and we are just getting into, right? So, but then if you're able to calibrate yourself against international peers, you begin to expose yourself and change your thinking pattern gradually, one step at a time. And as you continue to build on that, one day, who knows, an opportunity may come up, but then when that opportunity comes, you'll be more than prepared for that opportunity. So,
Very profound.
yeah, so the main thing here is still looking at what you have in your hands right now. What can you leverage? What can you do from where you are right now? It could be, like you mentioned, access to internet, some courses, some environments, like the McKinsey Forward program, where you get to meet other, young international professionals and see the way they think, see the way they are thinking through things, and then, start from there. Everything still boils down to exposure as well. There's also a big piece in there, right? So,
Thank you.
yeah. What was the second question again? I don't know if I touched on that.
Self-esteem and
Self-esteem.
how, yeah,
Okay.
even after people become successful, rather than growing, they want to flaunt, they want to fake, they want to show, yeah,
Yeah.
they are concerned about being perceived to be successful rather than really the process itself. It's a problem,
Absolutely.
and I'm so glad you started with that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something we touched on earlier. But one thing I will tell you is this, and just have this at the back of your mind. True wealth is silent. True wealth is never loud. If you can see it, most likely it is not wealth. I'll tell you why. What the wealthy do to get wealthy is that they invest, right? Right now, looking at me, you cannot see how much I have invested on my forehead. You cannot see that. Money is like it's like energy, right? As we say in science, it's well, it cannot be created. It can only change, move from one form to another, right? So what does that mean? Um, if you have some resource in your hands and you use it to look rich, you cannot do that and be invested at the same time. Trying to look rich only has one destination, and that destination is poverty. So that is why you would hear, especially with our celebrities, you hear a popular celebrity that you expected to be so rich, and maybe something happens to them and they die, and then you hear that, oh, this person was in serious debt because they wanted to keep up that appearance, and it was no longer sustainable, and they had to now start borrowing to keep up that appearance, right? So this is a concept and understanding that you need to internalize and understand, so that when you see someone flaunting, you won't feel pressured. Yeah, remember we talked about that life happens in seasons. There are some persons that have invested, and what you are seeing is kind of like proceeds of investment because they have paid the dues, right? Now, such kind of persons, you appreciate the process and what they have been through to be able to arrive at that destination. That is quite different from, sudden wealth and sudden riches, which we are used to, and then we just start feeling a bit pressured, and that pressure is going to only do one thing. It's going to make you see your seed that's supposed to be planted, and you'll be tempted to see it as a harvest that you should immediately consume, because you want to show that, oh, I have this harvest, I have something in my hand. But should you be consuming all of those harvests at that particular point in your life because you want to appear that way? 90% of people do. But you have to now think for yourself, what do I want to be in the next 10 years? If I should do this now, what's going to be the implication in the next 10 years? Some popular persons that in our society today, I don't want to call names, but if you see some entrepreneurs, okay, let's look at, let me not use Nigeria context, let me use globally to be safer. All right. You see someone like Mark Zuckerberg, right? When you see Mark Zuckerberg, what in him are you seeing that makes you think that this guy is wealthy? I'm 100% sure that if Mark Zuckerberg should walk on the streets of Nigeria today, maybe other people just maybe kind of like they have this special respect for a white guy. But if he walks on the street of maybe some places, like people don't recognize him, there's going to seem like every other guy. It's going to be wearing regular shirts like every other guy. It's going to be wearing regular shorts like any other guy. It's going to be looking like every other person. You cannot see it, right? But I don't know whether maybe definitely he's wealthier than Nigeria as a whole. I don't know how many African countries I'm going to combine together to define as well. But that's it. His wealth is invested. You cannot see it. So most times, don't be deceived. When you see it, most times it's not invested. Dangote in Nigeria, I heard recently, like he was driving, like I heard someone showing like we're driving a Chinese car. For having a refinery that Nigeria could not build as a whole country, probably he could be, going for the best of cars, right? So just think about that. I think the most important takeaway here is your mindset, your thinking process. How do you see it? What are you seeing? How do you interpret what you are seeing to yourself? If you understand what you are seeing and you interpret it rightly, then every other decision will be much easier to make. The chances of you making the wrong decision will be much lower, right?
Thank you. Can we celebrate those responses? Thank you so much. I think I have just one more question, and I thank you so much for your time. I know what it means from Europe to give us this much time. We don't take it for granted at all. Thank you, Doctor. The issue of survivor jobs is a reality we have to live with. We are all on transit. We are all on the journey of becoming. Yeah, we have a destination, desired target in view, target goal in view. We all do. But there are two extremes in my little experience in professional advisory, consulting, support for working with early career professionals. One extreme is some set of persons that will tell you, I must start big. I don't want survivor job. I'm waiting for my visa. 3 years, they are idle. 4 years, they are idle. If it's not this amount, 500K, I'm not starting. And all of they are always saying big, 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 big things and not taking any step at all. That's one extreme. The second extreme is to be perpetually buried in survival mode, such that we lose vision of where we are going. Like it just that survival life, people just now resort to it and settle inside it, and they give up the drive to push beyond that level. And if we all remain at that level, we know what the economy of our nation is like, and the family dependent systems where everybody earning, you were people invested in you to educate you. You have a sense of responsibility. You have your siblings, you have your parents. If you will settle for survival, you can't even be a blessing to one people around you, not to talk of impacting and transforming society. And the mindset is Africans building Africa. That's what we do at Giltop, to say we shouldn't be waiting for external aid for people from somewhere to come and help. We can innovate, initiate local solutions to brighten, the corner where we are, and make a difference and leverage, and to help bring sanity to society through what we do with the opportunities we have to affect lives around us. But someone says white people can explore, do research, find solution to what problem because they are not hungry. So they have time to think and all of that. uh, but here in Africa, a man is still
Yeah.
thinking of his stomach, So where is the interest to say I want to research insects or birds or explore nature and all of that? We need to survive. The two extremes. I would like you to just share your thoughts on that, and that'll be fine. The extreme of not
Okay.
starting, and then thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, thank you for that question. So that also relates to perception again, right? It relates to how we see life and how we think through what we are seeing. Um, I know it's sometimes appears as though persons on this side of the world tend to find life easy and they are not hungry and their stuff. They are like in a better place. Yeah, I could say that to some extent, that maybe generally on the average scale, um, poverty is really a big problem, maybe in Africa. But from my experience, having worked, especially in remote um, communities in Nigeria, the persons that are really, and I stand to be corrected, but the persons that are, that population of Nigeria that is really extremely poor, they don't have access to the internet. They cannot afford to even have access to the internet. You know what I mean? They are they are they are extremely poor. And most times they don't really gain that visibility. So most of the persons that we see, especially in cities that we interact with, and I don't know, but I mean, everybody on this call has access to internet, can pay for internet. Somehow, one way or the other, you have access to internet, that leverage. You may be surprised to know that your life may not really be so technically different from the average person on the streets in most Western countries. The reality is that a lot of people are under pressure globally. A lot of people, can barely make ends meet globally. The only thing here is that some persons may, just be running on debt. They may just, the end does not meet, they borrow and try to use their credit cards to make up, but it's just a matter of time, you know, days coming where, that's just going to be, so much that they cannot sustain it anymore. So why am I saying that? I'm just trying to make you understand that you should not look down on yourself or, make yourself feel like, these guys are like this, or I'm so, um, I'm so below or so under that I don't have any chance. There's always something that you can leverage, and you are not, it's not, how do I put it? It's not as bad as you think. And I'm saying that respectfully, because off the top of my head, I can see that, there's a high chance that you may be in that bracket of top 20% of Nigerians, because the vast amount of Nigerians, imagine Nigeria is over 200 million people. The vast amount of those 200 million people that are really under that poverty line, they are not usually visible. You don't really see them most of the time. So that being said, that is trying to, speak to the fact that you need to kind of think back and reflect and try to reorient yourself that, there are still possibilities, there are still opportunities that you can leverage no matter where you are, right? Like we mentioned, we talked about some items that you could leverage. The same internet that you are using to have this call right now, you could use the same internet to do a whole lot of things, self-improvement, self-development, and a lot of things, which could put you at a better place. And to make it easy, right? It just starts with curiosity. How does this work? What's going on here? I'm in this environment. Can you run me through what the issues? And one thing about humans, they like to complain. Our default nature is to complain. We're going to complain about the government. We're going to complain about the food. Here, they complain about the weather a lot. Complain about livelihood. People like complaints. Now, the beautiful thing is, the secret to success is finding the complaints that are most genuine and looking for a solution to them. That's just it. So humans will naturally give you that in a platter of gold. You have a choice to either take that complaint and think about how you can complain better and join them in the bad wagon of complaining, being the chief complainant. Or you could look at that complaint and try to think through the process and ask questions. What am I looking at? What's going on here? What led to this? Try to get a big picture. In the process of being curious, you might stumble across something. Now, once this is a habit, you realize that at each complaint you listen to, you are running through this process. It's not going to take long that you're going to stumble across a complaint that is really genuine, and the pain is significant enough that if you're able to find a solution to that pain, the persons that will benefit from the resolution of that problem are willing to pay for that problem to be solved. Now, once you do that, you are now in a transformational journey towards success. So success is a journey, right? And success thrives from problems and solving those problems, right?
This is powerful, so powerful. Thank you so much. I want to say a big thank you. Can we fly some emojis to celebrate our guest, Dr. Blessing? Thank you for the precious time you have spent with us today and sharing all these insights. I see another version of Dr. Sam Adeyemi, your calm approach and the light, the insight, and the experience. In fact, when I saw some of the pictures, I was just smiling. I said, "This guy." How are you able to read? I saw myself in one of the
Yeah.
pictures.
It's part of
How
the
are you able
journey.
to retain?
We're in the journey together. Yeah.
How are you able to retain all those pictures?
Yeah.
Brought some real memories that
Yeah.
gladdened my heart. Documentation and
Yeah. It's good to
forward.
also, yeah, that's also something I'll say. As you go through the journey in life, at every phase you are, you know, create some memories. Okay. And if you are thinking the right way and you're applying the right process, you would definitely and certainly progress towards where you want to be and where you are going to naturally. But the only thing I will tell you is that because I know that's going to happen for sure, try to take some pictures so that you can remember. So that when you get there, you know, oh, I used to be here. So
Yeah,
don't lose track of that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah,
Wow.
wish you
Thank
all
you
the
so much.
best. And
Thank you so much. So on behalf of Giltop and the entire community, we want to say thank you. You can follow Dr. Blessed on LinkedIn. You can follow him on Instagram. And maybe I'll get to share the link to his handles on our community for you to follow for materials and updates from his end and to learn more what he does and all of that. It's really a privilege that I'm so glad will have the opportunity to have a replay of this so that we get to feast on it again and again and again. One more time, we are saying a very big thank you. We look forward to having you again and again and again as time permits sometime in the future. Regards to your family, we're proud of Nigerians like you who are really blazing the trail, setting a standard, giving back to Africa, giving back to building hope through mentorship. This is an investment of your time, your experience, your expertise to be a blessing, to pour yourself into young professionals and give inspiration and hope. We do not take it for granted. Thank you so much, sir. For everyone, this happens every third Tuesday of the month. So see you next month, September, for another edition, same time, 8 p.m. West African time. And we will drop full details of that on the platform before then and get to invite everyone to attend. We will not have time to take feedback from our community, but people have been using the chats to share the points. Thank you, Sam. I can see everybody celebrating how blessed they were and how blessed we are. We are really blessed. Thank you so much, sir. And with this, having said this, looking forward to, for those joining us for the first time, welcome to Giltop Global African Youth Mentorship monthly webinar series. We'll be having another edition the third Tuesday of September, 8 p.m. West African time. And I will drop the handles of Dr. Blessed on our community platform so you can follow, like, share, comments and follow updates from him to learn more about his journey and be more inspired and blessed by the inspiration that he is. Thank you so much. This is just the beginning. Just to more success and great things to your family. So this brings our webinar for today to a close. I want to say thank you to everyone from Sierra Leone. I saw Ali Tambasese. He was here. I don't know if he's still here. Thank you so much. Always consistent from Kenema and Sierra Leone, and a lot of our friends from everywhere. Thank you for joining. Let your life become an evidence of transformation through all of this that you are learning, and be of an impact to someone. Don't keep this to yourself. Share, grow, build, learn, and be a blessing. Thank you. Have a blessed night. Can say goodbye at this point.
bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Goodbye. Greet your family.
Yeah,
Bye,
thank you.
everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.